But you can see how this again,
Yeah.
39,000, 5% down. I mean, look at that return.
Boom. Come on now.
That's
Well, hey, everybody. Andy Robinson from 620 Investments. Super excited to chat with you and share some exciting news in the mortgage space. Obviously, I'm not an expert when it comes to that. So I got my buddy Darren Hunter from Mortgage Right here to really kind of share this exciting news and this exciting change and what it might mean for real estate investors or want to be, budding real estate investors. So, Darren, can you kind of share, the recent changes in multifamily, loan products?
Absolutely. So again, my name is Darren Hunter. Andy, thanks for having me on. I appreciate you. It's anytime I can get on camera and get in front of a mic, I'm all for it, man. So appreciate it. Yeah, so as of November 18th, so today is the 21st, so 3 days ago, Fannie Mae implemented a change into multifamily requirements for down payment. And this is pretty, it's monumental, really, because if you were getting ready to purchase a duplex, you needed 15% down, a triplex, 20, all the way down to 25 on a quadruplex. So, you know, slashing your down payment from 25 on a quadruplex all the way to 5% down payment is unbelievable, really.
Yeah.
And the one, sort of the only way that this particular transaction works, though, you do have to occupy the property as a primary residence. So if it's whether it's a duplex, triplex, or quadruplex, you would have to occupy one of the homes, one of the units, in order for this transaction to work.
Mm-hmm.
And really, it's Fannie Mae's way to, do a couple different things. Number one, you're combating affordability with helping home buyers offset their monthly payments by taking in rental income to help offset their monthly payments to and really just make it more affordable. But also it's there's this push for attainable housing. Affordable housing has kind of gotten a bad rap, or a bad, that's a bad word in the political world, right? So attainable housing. And again, this is a way for Fannie Mae to push home buyers into purchasing multifamily housing so they can make rentals available for more folks, more attainable rentals for more and more folks. So it's kind of a couple pronged approach that Fannie Mae is going after, but it's really just a phenomenal program. You think about the challenges of trying to purchase a house, nowadays, and just the median home price is, in the lower 400,000. You're talking about multifamily, so you're, it's a couple 100,000 higher than that. So most people aren't going to be able to afford that. But when you take into consideration the rental income that's coming in, and that's one of the keys, right? Is we're actually going to be able to use the rental income that's coming into the home, whether it's currently under lease, or if there are or even if it's not occupied currently, we can actually do what's called a rent schedule, where we send out, when we do the appraisal, we send somebody out. The appraiser is going to go do a market analysis and determine how much that particular unit will take in on a monthly basis. And we can then use that income to help get your loan approved. And in a lot of cases, that's going to help people, who would not necessarily be able to afford the property or get approved for the property, get them over that hump and allow them to purchase their home. So just a really pretty special, awesome program, and we're super excited about it. I know you guys have got to be super excited about it.
Yeah, thanks so much for sharing that. And yeah, absolutely excited about it. It really just opens up real estate investing to a whole lot of people that otherwise, might not have the capital to get started, right? I think that's for first time investors, I would say that's probably the first obstacle, right? Is it's not even being able to get financing, I think, as much as it's just that down payment. If you're, You've got to make a down payment. And so that's slashing that to 5%. And I'll share an example here in a little bit. Really kind of opens up the aperture for more people to do it. And then also, if, you know, when I was listening to you talk about it, and it's encouraging more housing options, you know, if the owner is living in one of these 2, 3, or 4 units, you know, those rental units, whether they're long-term, short-term, mid-term, they're probably going to be taken care of a little bit better, right? Than, you know, I got my money, I bought a duplex somewhere, you know, 45 minutes away from me. I don't go check on it. I've got long-term tenants in there for a year, and I rarely look at it. I kind of pay somebody to take care of the grass, all that stuff, right? I mean, that's the type of real estate investing. I'm not necessarily knocking it, but if you have an owner-occupied multi-family property, that person, that's their baby, right?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
They're going to be keeping an eye on it. They're going to be looking at it. And then also, you know, I work specifically in the short-term space, and a lot of places have regulations where, you know, it's easier for someone who is occupying a property to meet the regulations for their short-term rental requirements, right?
Sure.
Like whether a city has X amount of licenses for short-term rentals that are non-owner occupied, and then a greater number for owner occupied. Some just drop the hammer and they say, hey, like if it's not owner occupied, it's not happening.
Right.
So by using this product, one, 5% down, which is beautiful, right? And two, you might be able to operate in a space where otherwise a short-term rental couldn't exist, right? And now the municipality or the city is even cutting out some of your competition. So it's even more challenging, right? So definitely is a very attractive product and some great news. I found a place, you know, one place that I've been looking at investing. I was looking at investing until they got pretty strict around their regulations, is Chattanooga. You know, you and I are right here in Woodstock, Georgia, just north of Atlanta. Chattanooga is pretty close. Obviously, I wasn't looking to move, right? I wasn't looking to, so it would not be an owner-occupied short-term rental. Well, you know, they changed the legislation. So now I stopped looking there because I don't want to, nothing wrong with Chattanooga. I like it. I just don't want to move there. I love Woodstock. I'm here. I'm a family. I got my house here.
Chattanooga's a great location. I've done countless mortgages for folks here in Atlanta purchasing in Chattanooga for short-term leases, and they've done very, very well over the last several years. So, and on top of the income, they've seen the appreciation and the amortization. So, great area. But yeah, I find it interesting that, you know, there has been this just rash of legislation coming down the pipe to really hurt the short-term rental market. And you know, frankly, I don't work in short-term. I work in long-term. You know, when you were describing, you know, being on site and taking care of that property, you know, what I do is I won't buy properties. You know, I've always done long-term. I won't buy properties in Florida. You know, my wife, you know, still kills me because I would not buy property down on 30A, you know, which has done phenomenal over the last decade. But I want something that I can touch. I mean, if I'm 25, 30 minutes away, I can at least go to that property. But even though it's only 25, 30 minutes away, at best, I'm going there once a month, unless there's an issue going on, right? So, you know, but if I'm actually on site, I'm in the house, you know, there's no doubt I would be monitoring and taking, you know, probably much better care of that particular property. So to your point, that makes a lot of sense.
If I could, like, for example, if I could grab somebody and say, hey, come here, look at this great news as far as financing. You know, you're kind of thinking, so if I could have like an avatar of who I would grab for this, I would grab a young, maybe single person or a young couple, right? That maybe have the opportunity to remote work, or maybe have the opportunity to relocate to say Chattanooga, this is where I found this property. So if you can, now these units in this property, and most units you're going to find in a multifamily, maybe 2 bedroom, right? Sometimes 1 bedroom. It is not, it might not be what most people want to have to live in for the next 10 years. I'm not trying to convince you to do that, right? But if you are 25 years old, right, and you've got a job where you can work remotely, and you know, it's a good job, right? What would happen if you could live rent and mortgage free? What would happen if you could live rent and mortgage free and make money on top of that,
Right.
right? And then the equity, right? And then you and I were talking about it, you know, you need to occupy it, but in a year, right? After a year's up, if you want to move somewhere else and either do this again, or you know, a year is up and you're like, you know what, I want a single family home for myself, move out of that 4th unit or that 3rd unit, rent that out. Now you're doing even better, right? So house hacking, right? That's exactly what this is. And it's just, I'm so excited for the people that are going to be able to take advantage of it. Let me share real quick this property that I found in Chattanooga, and we can kind of talk hypothetically what it might look like, you know, given this change. So this right here, I hope it's working. Yeah. All right. This right here, this is a 4-plex in Chattanooga. It is coming fully furnished. Altogether, it's 5 bedrooms, 5 baths, just under $800,000. And it's not right in the exact downtown of Chattanooga, but it's close enough. I mean, you could easily get into the city if you wanted to do something, and Chattanooga's fun, man. There's just a lot of great stuff there.
There's a ton to do. It's a great city.
Yeah. And you know, 1920s. So it's an older home, right? But it's got 4 units. It's got a 2-2, and then 3 1-bedroom, 1-bath units. So you could live in one of them, you know, maybe preferably one of the 1-1s, maybe one of the less expensive ones. And I mean, it's furnished real nice. I mean, somebody could get in this and really, I mean, might make a few changes and freshen a couple things up for if you wanted to do short-term rentals, but it's pretty much ready to go.
Yeah.
So you do your down payment, you do your, you know, your closing costs, and you know, get it rented, whether it's long-term or short-term. And we can kind of jump into some of those numbers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, go ahead, Darren. Why don't you go ahead and you know, share that analysis that you did, unless you have any other thoughts before we jump into that.
Yeah, I mean, so what Andy's talking about, and we'll share that. I'm about to share that here with you. Is you know, we basically took 4 different scenarios, and well, really 2 scenarios, but we broke them down in between. You know, what the rules were prior to this past weekend, and then what they are now, right? So for a 4-plex, we needed 25% down. Now we only need 5% down, and also, you know, short term is going to produce one certain amount of income versus long term, which is going to produce another type of income. And you know, typically we see short term rental income producing a little bit more gross income, and you know, but I've also accounted for that in taking in adding some more maintenance and repairs, because there's going to be some more wear and tear. You know, you're going to be, and I'm assuming, and listen, you know, this is a hypothetical situation. We're assuming a few things, right? So, but you know, we can certainly, you know, really, you know, go down a rabbit hole with the type of different expenses we want to add to this, but you know, try to be as fair as possible. But we're taking in, you know, maintenance, we're taking in the closing costs, we're taking in the cost to sell the property. You know, we're taking in, you know, all these different things. So let me just bring up the screen and we can share, I can share with you what I'm looking at, and kind of see what the returns are going to look like if you were to do something. And again, I think you're dead on, Andy, when it comes to the type of individual that this is perfect for, whether it's, you know, if somebody who's young, you know, has some flexibility, can live in a 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom house, you know, can work remotely. Maybe somebody's had a life change and, just looking to get out of, whatever. I mean, there's 100 different scenarios, but I think you were dead on the avatar description of who this would be perfect for. So let me share the screen and let's see here.
Yeah, I mean, just one more while you're doing that, just one more avatar that might work. Say a retired couple that,
Yeah,
downsizing, finally
yeah,
empty nesters,
that's right.
wanting to adjust to maybe now they're seeing what their retirement might look like, and they need to pad it a bit. Go ahead and move up Chattanooga. Live right
And
there,
and
do the groceries.
you and I
Do
know
it
the cost of living in Chattanooga is a heck of a lot better or less expensive than it is here in downtown Woodstock. That's for
right.
sure.
Yeah, and I mean do that, and especially if you're living there, one of the biggest costs when it comes to short-term rental is turnover and cleaning. If you're living there and you have the opportunity, say you have a guest checks out at 10, your next one checks out at 3. If you're willing to go in there and do that cleaning, that's $200 that you're saving right there, right?
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
so it's definitely stuff to think about.
All right. Can you see this screen over here that I'm sharing?
Not yet.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. So
Can you zoom in a lot though?
say again.
Can you zoom in like as much as you can? Because it's
Yes.
tough on the screen. All
Better.
right. Yes.
All right. So this is the first scenario, and you can see here, and if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, Andy, but this is the current rental income that 3 units are
3 of the
receiving.
units.
Yes, 3 of the units are receiving currently. So it's taking in $5,300 on 3 units. You would
Long term.
occupy the fourth unit, right?
Yep. This is the
Uh,
long term. This is the long term option.
that's correct, the long-term rental option. So, and then we'll break it down a little bit. This is your monthly expenses. This is year one monthly cash flow negative $1,300. So essentially, a way to look at this or view this is your monthly payment is $1,368 to purchase this home because the income that you're receiving is offsetting the liability, which is your mortgage, right?
Right.
So you've got a loss of $1,300, but really it's just your monthly expense that you're paying to live in basically an $800,000 house right next to downtown Chattanooga. And here, if you look to the right side, it's a cumulative. We're going to look at it over 10 years. I mean, of course, we can adjust this however you want, but this is just a 10-year snapshot. Total rental income almost 730 grand. Total expenses, $804,000, right? So your cumulative cash flow is just under $75,000. So your cash on cash return is going to be negative because
Yeah.
again, you're living in that property. That's assuming that you're living in that property for 10 years. So if you live in it for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, that figure is going to change because obviously now you're receiving more than your expenses. But again, this is assuming you're living in the property for the first 10 years. And so you can see we did take into consideration a rental increase of about 3% on average. And the rental income you'll see increases year over year.
Yep.
Principal and interest, it's going to stay the same. That's a beautiful thing about buying, right? You're no longer renting. You have the opportunity to fix your expenses on the principal and interest. Taxes and insurance, however, different story. That's going to increase slightly. That's a 2% increase on an annual basis. And then here's your maintenance and repairs. And I sort of lumped in your maintenance repairs versus into one versus expenses. Now, again, you're occupying the property. This is long-term rental, so you're going to have you should have fairly minimal expenses.
Yeah.
But we're looking at right around $4,000 on monthly expenses. And again, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't believe there's any HOA fees.
There's no HOA here. No.
This is assuming that you're managing the property yourself since you're occupying it. I mean, that makes sense to me.
Yeah, definitely do that.
Yep. And so you can see your negative cash flow again, but year over year, as your rents increase up top here, your negative cash flow decreases. So essentially your monthly payment for
Going
your
down.
portion is decreasing on an annual basis. And then, year 10, you're actually in the black. Okay.
Right.
So again, you can see your cash on cash return, gets better year after year, but cumulatively, it's going to be negative over a 10-year period. And then you can see this just by the chart.
Right.
Now, in this particular scenario, if we're occupying it, this is where, you're of course you're offsetting those expenses, but where you're really getting the gains, the big gains, is going to be your appreciation, right?
Right.
The forecasted appreciation in Chattanooga over the next 10 years is 3.64%, right? So year over year, you're seeing about 3.64% on that appreciation. And that's one of the beautiful things about this product, and really any mortgage for that matter. You as an individual taking advantage of a mortgage, you're leveraging purchasing an asset. And where else can you purchase an asset for 5% down, but experience the appreciation gain of the total asset? That's one of the things that's so beautiful about, residential housing, and having the ability to take advantage of this and leveraging. So, you're going to see, after a 10-year gain, 10 years, the home is going to be a little over $1.1 million is what the forecasted appreciation is. Now, on top of that, on a monthly basis, you're paying down your principal balance. You're paying that down, portion. Obviously, every single month that you pay, it's obviously going to be heavy interest first in the beginning, and it gets more and more towards principal balance every single time you make a payment. But over a 10-year period, you're going to pay down $93,000 in that mortgage. And that's just if you make the minimum payment. Obviously, if you're somebody that wants to put more money in and pay that balance down even further, that amortization gain is going to increase. It is like a savings account. Absolutely like a savings account. That money is yours. It's not super liquid, but it is that equity that you're gaining by paying down your mortgage is your money. So, your remaining balance after 10 years is going to be dropped down, like I said, about 93,000. So your interest rate is going to be 8% on this particular mortgage. APR, because you're going to be financing, there's mortgage insurance on that. And that's one thing too. Let me take a step back on that, Andy, because I don't think I touched on that.
Mortgage insurance.
So your mortgage insurance, remember, anytime you're putting a less than 20% down, you're going to be required to pay mortgage insurance. And this is taking into consideration the mortgage insurance that you will be required to pay for putting 5% down on a multifamily house. And we're assuming very good credit score, good income, good enough income to purchase the property. And the mortgage insurance is fairly minimal. It's actually only $200 a month. Now, I will, let me put a caveat there, or asterisk there, whatever you want to say. Mortgage insurance is a sliding scale. If you have a lower credit score, you're going to pay a higher premium for your mortgage insurance. So that's going to eat away at some of these profits for sure. So be wary of that. But you can see the total rental income is, 730,000 appreciation. So your gross revenue for this property is $1,072,000 in 10 years.
10 years.
Your expenses, a little over 800,000. So your profit is 268,000, right at 269, right? So now your minimum investment.
This is the down. So this is
that's the down payment. That's the down payment. Okay. Right. So your return, your total return on investment was $673,000 over a 10-year period, which is, I mean, on an annual basis, that's a 22% compounded return. I don't know many hedge funds that are taking that into consideration. And what I'll say to this, if you look down here when we're calculating this annual average, because if you notice, this 39,000 is your down payment, but I didn't mention closing costs, right?
Right. So
well, your closing costs are listed right down here.
Right.
So we are taking into consideration the fact that you will be paying closing costs when you purchase this home. So, and not only that, let me see here. I'm also taking into consideration, well, based on the new rules or the new laws or new lawsuit rather that took place, I am taking into consideration 6%, but who knows, in 10 years from now, you may be paying a little bit less than 6% when it comes to agent fees. But you can see here that's accounted for in this on the 10th year. That's your cost to sell. your cost to sell of 6% is calculated in this return. So again, you're looking at a total return on your money of 22.7%, almost 23% on an annual basis. And that's on the long-term rental side. So if you're somebody who's a little more conservative, doesn't really want to mess with the, the flipping of the property, cleaning the property, however many times a month, this might be a perfect scenario for you. And not really a bad return either. I mean, it's a
phenomenal. But before this weekend, that investment line, right? That down payment investment line was what, 4 times that amount, right? So before this weekend, you had to come to the table with 200 grand, 160 plus your closing costs, right? So what did that look like? I mean, and then that just slashes your profitability, but also that's the barrier of entry.
There it
Who
is.
has $200,000 sitting around?
Can you see? Can you see that? That's right here. That's prior to this past weekend. Are you seeing my screen, Andy?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's that you hit the nail on the head. $199,750 is what it would have taken before closing costs. Yeah. What it would have taken for you to purchase this property, and literally your compounded return was cut in half.
Yeah, just flash
prior to this weekend. So again, this just illustrates the beauty of leverage that we're afforded here in the amazing United States of America. We could take advantage of these particular products and profit off these if we use them intelligently. And then, just to, give that comparison, I mean, here we are on the short-term side of things. The short-term side of things, you can see your monthly income, your rental income on an annual basis is superior, right? I mean, it far exceeds the long-term. Now, these are projections. But that's renting out the 3 units. You're still occupying 1 unit, obviously.
Right.
Talked about
you're
earlier.
occupying this hypothetical is occupying one of the 1-bedroom, 1-bathrooms, but renting out the 2-2 and renting out the other one, right?
Correct.
On a short-term basis. And this isn't including, Airbnb fees or cleaning fees, which, like I said, is one of the expenses you have, or supplies, right? But especially the cleaning fees, I mean, like I said, if you're willing to, most of the time it's just make a bed, right? And run a dishwasher. If you're willing to do that, and you live there, I mean, come on. But yeah, obviously these numbers for short-term rentals are better. And are you cash flowing? I believe you're cash flowing, right?
Yeah. So literally year 1 monthly cash flow of your $1,800. So in this scenario, you're literally living for free, and you're cash flowing another $1,800 a month. And to your point on the repairs and maintenance and Airbnb fees and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I did increase the maintenance repairs, which I sort of lumped in together, but we could add another line item right here for your expenses, whatever that is, so we can sort of, again, just be a little bit more conservative. But I certainly did take into consideration more repairs. There's going to be more wear and tear. There's going to be more maintenance, all those kind of things, right? So I did take that into consideration. But yeah, you are cash flowing on the first day, month 1. I mean, again, it's so if you're, whether you're whatever avatar that you decide who you are, it's a pretty good scenario. And then, getting down to what we really want to see. I mean, we talk. So of course I've got the train coming through right now, Andy. So you're
I hear it. It's further in a distance, but it's right next to your office.
Yeah. But you can see how this again. 39,000, 5% down. I mean, look at that return.
Boom. Come on now.
That's absolutely.
And this, when you're doing this and when you're building this out for the 10 years, right? This model does not include, if you wanted to move out of that house, say after 12 months, rent out that last unit. Each of these units I just did a quick analysis using AirDNA. So I didn't really dig in and pull comps, but each of these units in this property that I showed in Chattanooga gets about $35,000 a year. So after year one, if you move out and you're renting them all out as either short-term or long-term properties, you're going to make that much more. I mean, folks, you got to invest in real estate. You got to get in the game. You have to. It's just, it's far superior to so many other things to do with your money.
It is.
And it's just, I mean,
It is, and you can see too, you know, let's just for the again comparison. Here is the monthly. For a while, all of a sudden I'm playing music evidently somewhere.
nice. All right.
All right, there we go. You can see there, I mean, you know, prior to this weekend, I mean, still a phenomenal return.
Yeah,
But
it's still
again,
great.
yeah, but again, I mean, you know, coming up with 200 grand versus 40 grand,
Yep.
a little bit more of a challenge. And you know, and the fact is, you know what they're trying to do is making housing more affordable, right, more attainable,
Right.
and this is, you know, really one of the better options. Now, you know, listen, there's going to be plenty of people out there that are going to be naysayers and have negative comments about, you know, the additional risk that's being taken on. But again, I mean, I feel more comfortable putting my money into real estate than I do in the stock market. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, it's obviously it's something that we do on a daily basis. I've been in mortgages for 22 years, been invested in real estate since 2008. And, you know, so certainly I feel comfortable with my positions and investing in it still to this day. But, you know, when I see those kind of returns and I'm living in it too, I mean, that's, you know,
Yeah.
and you're in an area that's going to continue to see growth, like Chattanooga, like the Cherokee County, Georgia. I mean, Metro Atlanta, Georgia. I mean, if you're buying in one of those areas, you know, there's going to continue to be growth for quite some time. And listen, it's not always going to be a straight line. We all understand that, but man, I'll take my chances on real estate than I will on stock
Yeah.
market. I just don't even know, you know, who's making the calls half the time on
Right.
so
Right. Yep. Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Well, hey, thanks so much for sharing. You know, this great information, this great news. If anybody has any questions about, you know, these financing options or any really, right? Because you're doing so many of them. But and not just Atlanta or Chattanooga, but all over. Darren can definitely help you out. Whether it's just sharing knowledge or, you know, actually getting financing. So
yeah, no doubt. I appreciate you. Yeah, don't hesitate to call, reach out. Happy to help. Whether it's kick around ideas or run scenarios, get you pre-approved, whatever it is, happy to help. You know, I'm just here trying to add value from any way we can.
how can people get in touch with you, Darren?
You can reach me directly at 404-863-2121, or you can, you know, of course, you can see right here. This is my direct line right here, 404-863-2121. This is my email address. You can go to the website. Of course, you know, I'm on all the socials. You know, I'm known as the Mortgage Hunter. So you can, you know, whether it's LinkedIn, whether it's Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, you know,
All
I'm
the
out
things.
there.
All right. Awesome, man. And if anybody has questions about short-term rentals, obviously feel free to reach out and, you know, we can talk more about leveraging this amazing strategy or this amazing finance tool, you know, for folks to jump into real estate investing, man. Let's do it.
Awesome.
All right.
Thanks, Andy.
Thanks, man,
Appreciate
so
you
much.
having me.
Thank you.
Take care, brother.